Good morning, good afternoon, maybe good evening. Welcome to the sunny south coast of the UK. It's very nice to have you here with me this morning. Let's get going. So, 1 second, I'm going to press some magic buttons and let's show you what the plan is for the next hour. So today we are going to be focusing on writing. Lovely stuff. So 1 second, let me show you what the exact topic is. It's good to be exact. Examiners like it when we're exact. We are going to be looking at this. We're going to be looking at key adverbs for emphasis and style. It's a rather ambitious sounding title, isn't it? It's basically looking at ways of boosting your lexical range, making your vocabulary super amazing, and really, really impressing an examiner. So basically, it's going to be quite a busy hour. I know that those of you that have been in my sessions before, my whole drive really is to get students to remember that the writing and the speaking, they are subjective. Okay, you are relying on the opinions of an examiner. You have to appeal to an audience. It's different to the listening and the reading. A machine marks those, but you have to really think, what is going to make my writing better? Better than, thank you very much. What's going to make my writing better than everybody else's? I don't want you to think that IELTS is a competition, but realistically, it kind of is. So the way that the IELTS is marked is that the speaking examiners, they spend a lot of time with you and everybody else going through exactly the same questions for hours and hours. And it's the same with the writing. The day that you take your IELTS exam, a huge amount of other people will take the exam as well. And you will all be answering the same question. IELTS marking is really not a great thing to be doing, because you're looking at the same responses over and over again. But the issue is as well, is that you're looking at the same mistakes over and over again. And what you've got to do, well, first of all, don't make any mistakes, which is probably, it's very easy for me to say. But what we need to do is make your writing stand out. And organization and structure, it really does help you. So absolutely, this most of this session is going to be about adverbs. We're also going to look at something else, which is really important. We're going to look at ways of avoiding generalizations when you're writing too, because that's something which comes up quite a lot. So let's get going. I'm going to press a few magic buttons and we will look at some lovely adverbs. So, here we go. Okay. So I'm going to make this big. So I'm going to be very annoying. I'm going to keep coming back because I want to check on the chat as well. And contributions are very much welcome on the chat. But yes, you're going to find that the window gets bigger and smaller, which will be fun for your eyes, I'm sure. 1 sec. Okay. All right. So what we need to get into our heads is that, yes, grammar is important, of course, but vocabulary is very important as well. And vocabulary and grammar, they both do serve to complement each other. So, in order to get a good mark in your grammar, your vocabulary needs to be good because the grammar structures your vocabulary. But grammar by itself is not going to make a 100% impression on its own. It needs to be supported by good vocabulary. And this is absolutely true. So I'm going to get my magic highlighting stuff out here. Using adverbs will help make your ideas and your opinions sound stronger to the reader. Now, you are, as you know, when you're doing the writing, you're asked for your opinion. This is in part 2 of the writing. You're asked for what you feel about a subject. You're asked to support it with reasons and examples, and you're asked to give evidence why your beliefs are the way that they are. But what students sometimes don't realize is that you have to make your own views very clear. That's what the examiners want to see. And the method that you need to do that is by choosing intelligently, being smart, choosing really, really good language. So let's have a look at this sentence here. Oh gosh, all the colors are going on this morning. Okay. So this is just a sentence from an essay. It's actually an essay about working from home, which is rather timely because a lot of us are working from home. This one, so I just want to check the chat box here. Everyone's here. Yeah, good, right, good. So clearly, these distractions will reduce how much work you produce. So if we read this sentence, this sentence has got a gap in it, and we will look how to fill that gap in a second. But if we just look at the sentence on its own, clearly these distractions will reduce how much work you produce. This sentence is fine. It is a sentence on its own, isn't it? It's, there's nothing wrong with that. I would be very happy if I read that in an IELTS essay. One reason why I like this word. I like clearly. It's something that I look out for. Because again, this isn't the word that we're looking at at this precise moment and for the gap. But again, it's showing organization and it's showing structure, and it's a good word to use. It means when something is obvious. I'm trying to think of a synonym here, but clearly means when you want to make something clear, basically. So it's a bit softer than obviously, but it's the same kind of idea. So clearly these distractions will reduce how much work you produce. Now we've got a gap here. How can we fill this gap? Well, here we have a modal verb. And here we have got a verb is an infinitive. So trying to be very straight here, yes. Using an adverb. Adverbs add information to verbs. So what we need to do is we need to use a word here which is going to give us some more information about this action here, to reduce. So we can choose all sorts of words. It depends on the meaning. We're going to have a look in a second at some adverbs that we could use here. But it depends if we want to make it stronger. So we're talking about a large amount of how it will be reduced. Or it depends if we want to soften it. If we want to have less emphasis. Okay, so we're saying it will reduce it, but not very much. So we have to think of the meaning, don't we? So, and we'll look at some words to do both of these things, to increase the impact of how much it will reduce, or if we want to soften or limit the impact of how much will be reduced. And we'll look at ways of doing that. So this is all about adding emphasis. So the main point here is that we don't really want to reduce it. We want to make it strong. We want to give a very clear idea and a clear opinion. We want to give weight to the action that we are describing, because examiners like that for two reasons. First of all, it makes your content more interesting. And secondly, very basically, it shows that you know how to use adverbs. The IELTS writing is a language-based exam, and your ideas, of course, your ideas are important. And if your writing is entertaining, of course, that's important. But you're getting marked very basically on your English language skills, aren't you? So using adverbs will show an examiner that you can use adverbs. So go with that. Okay. So I'm just going to flick back again. 1 second. Brilliant. Okay. So let's have a look at possible words we could use to fill in this gap in green here. So we've all got the start here in this column over here. Let's go yellow, shall we? Joining a sports club, regular exercise, learning a new language, moving from the countryside to the city, starting your business, lack of sleep, banning smoking in public places, when you when you let your children watch too much TV, Okay, so these are all, 1 second. I'm very particular about my colors, as you can see. These are all starts to sentences. These are starts to opinions, okay? So you can see we've got a capital letter, very good. And then we need to build the rest of the sentence. So let's have a look here. I can see some rather interesting language here. So yeah, the starts of the sentences, but they're quite interesting as well. But remember, we're all about scoring points. We're all about impressing an examiner with the type of language that we know and showing them that we have the ability to use it. So we've got a selection of words here that are not adverbs. So again, it's about showing that we're building on language. May, might, can, could, would, and will. Now this connects to this one here, doesn't it? We've got a will here. These are all modal verbs. I'm going to look at modal verbs a little bit later in the session as well. Examiners like modal verbs. The reason why is that we use them a lot in academic writing in English. Whilst you are asked, it's quite a complex sort of thing to fully understand, you're asked to give your opinion, but you're asked to make it clear that other opinions from other people, differing opinions to yours, are very possible as well. And that's why we really like in academic English using these modal verbs, because we're speculating. We're saying it's possible. We're not saying it's an absolute truth, but we're saying it could be an absolute truth. This could be the situation. Okay? So, use them. They are absolutely a language point that examiners will look for. If you're aiming to get higher than a 6.5, if you're looking for a 7 or an 8, even a 9, let's go crazy. These are the type of things that will need to be included to show that you have an awareness and you can use complex structures. Okay, so these are important. Okay, may, might, can, could, would, and will. So let's just have a think about the meaning of these here. May and might, very little difference between those two. We're talking about possibility, aren't we? May, might, is possible. Can, we are able. Could and can are very similar here. Would and will, we're making predictions. Let me go through those again with you from the bottom. Would and will are kind of making predictions. Can and could is talking about the ability to do something and the possible ability to do something. And may and might is saying, yeah, It's a possibility. We're speculating. Okay. So we've got the start of the sentences, and then we've got the modal verbs. And I'm just going to leave this column here. I'm just going to move over to the far right. If we look at this, unsurprisingly, as we read from left to right, these are the ends of the sentence. And you can see, apart from my, oh dear, that was really helpful. Let's do it slightly bigger so you can actually see the wording. It'll be helpful. There we go. So you can actually see what we're looking at now. So these are the ends of the sentence. And these are the actions, aren't they? Increase or reduce verbs, the risk of. Increase, improve, reduce the chance of. Improve your opportunities of. Affect or limit or increase the amount of. Limit, affect. Notice this is with an A. Increase, improve, reduce, help to reduce, and damage. Now, notice that I said that this was with an A. This is because they are all verbs. Because these are modal verbs, this needs to be followed by an expression which has a verb infinitive directly afterwards. Okay, we're going to add an adverb here, but the verb after a modal verb is always in the infinitive form. Okay, so let's have a think now about how we can make these adverbs. Okay, so what we need to do. So we've got certainly, dramatically, sigtly, and consibly. Well, yes, that's not me just reading things really badly. There's a gap in each of these here, isn't there? So what we need to do is we need to fill in that gap to make some lovely adverbs. So first one, I'm just going to make this a bit smaller, excuse me 1 second, is, thank you very much, Kaliash. I'm going to try and multitask here. This could be, I'm going to try and talk to you, read the text, and type in the box. 3 things at once. Let's see what happens. So, seriously. Grammatically, it's been done for you, so that's helpful. Seriously, dramatically. My spelling's right. My hands are really cold, so my typing is a bit dodgy. So significantly, there we go. That looks good to me. And considerably. Okay. To be honest, you don't need to know like 30 different adverbs. You know, whilst you need to, and I very much encourage you to use them when you're writing in part 2, they're not the only language you're going to use. Otherwise, please don't. Otherwise, the examiner will think you're crazy. But, you know, these 4 actually can probably sufficient, to be honest with you. And they're all about, right, we're going big again. And your eyes, going in. Okay, so boom. Okay, so these are all ways of making something bigger, more emphatic, giving weight to it. Okay, so seriously means a lot, dramatically means a lot, significantly means a lot. I'm not doing very well with my synonyms here. And considerably means a lot as well. So you understand, don't you? So basically, it means you're giving power. It's saying that this isn't small. This is not a little thing. This is a really big thing here. So we are giving we're giving weight to the sentence here. Okay. So sport, exercise, learning a language, moving from the countryside to the city or the city to the countryside, starting a business, lack of sleep, public health, letting your children watch too much TV. These are, you know, I'm sure that you do have a very good awareness of the IELTS exam. These are really typical type of topics that come up when you're writing, and I would like to add at this point, and when you're speaking. So the language we're looking at here, I mean, this focus is on writing, but absolutely, use these adverbs to be emphatic when you're speaking as well. A lot of the language skills that we look at, there is a crossover between the speaking and the writing because they're both productive skills. And also the type of areas that you're asked to focus on are quite similar, aren't they? So yeah, the topics are the same and the language that you are required to produce, there's not much difference between them. Okay, so let's have a look at don't produce language like that. Let's have a look at the start of the sentences here. So joining a sports club. Okay, well, I'm going to start here. I'm going to do all of them, actually. I'm going to use could. Joining a sports club could significantly reduce the risk of illness. It's a bold claim. Please don't trust me, and bearing in mind we're in a pandemic, but joining a sports club could significantly reduce the risk of illness. I'm going to type this up for you as a whole thing. A long sentence. I don't know if it's true. This is, as I said, there's no guarantees here. So caveat, absolutely. The rule is definite. I do like the rule about modal verbs because it's the one rule in English which is absolute. You never use a verb ing. You don't use past form. You always, after a modal verb, use the infinitive. But absolutely, we can slot in here, like these columns kind of, what they suggest, they show us here. You can add an adverb between the modal verb and the verb infinitive. And that absolutely, that is to add emphasis here. So, I mean, just focus on my language usage here, not on me being a medical expert about sports clubs and risk of illness. In fact, gyms at the moment and sports clubs are closed because of the pandemic. So yes, so focus on my language, not on my content. So let's just have a look here. Joining a sports club could, we're saying here it's possible, significantly, like really, really reduce the risk of illness. Okay, so it's all putting parts of language together to make, to make a good complex sentence. That's what examiners want to see. If you look at the grading criteria for, band 7 upwards, complex sentences being used, flexible use of language, and you look at that and you think, well, that's great. What does that mean? What it means is that you can do things like this. Basically, you can play around with language. You can use modal verbs. You know that you use an infinitive, but you want to make your feelings very clear, so you can use an adverb. It's all about piecing together language to make things that really mean something. And that's what's going to make an examiner think, this is good. Okay, let's do a couple more, just because it's good to see some examples here. We're going big again. You ready? Here we go. Ooh. Okay. Let's move away from, well, we're in a language class, so we may as well do something about this here. So learning a language, let's be bold, will considerably, okay. Is there a difference between significantly and considerably? No. Then why don't we use significantly all the time? Because it's a bit boring. And you want to show an examiner, flexible language use is very important. We want to show an examiner that you know different words and that you know how to use them, and you know that repetition is not great. Okay? So learning a new language will considerably improve your opportunities of employment. Let's do some big typing again. No, not joining. Right. New language. Will. I'm being bold here. I'm also being very bad at typing. Oh, that's terrible typing. Spelling is important. Opportunities of. Right, let's make sure that I've spelled and typed this correctly before I show you. Learning a new language. Right, I'm happy with that. Okay. Sounds like I'm trying to sell something here. This is like sales talk. This is like, no, absolutely. Will, come, do these language classes. Yeah, learning a new language will considerably improve your opportunities of employment. And that's probably true. Mind you, it kind of depends on the language it is that you're learning. You guys are obviously learning English, and you are doing that. Probably not for fun, because I think learning English is not always a fun activity. You're doing it to improve your education. You're doing it to get qualifications, and you're doing it to have a better job probably at the end of it as well. So we're saying will. We're making a firm prediction here, aren't we? And we're giving some kind of boom to it as well by saying considerably. Will improve. How much will it improve? Considerably, a lot. So we're adding power and emphasis to what we are saying. All right, let's just do one more. Because I just want to do one more piecing together. We're going big. Here we go. Back in. This one comes up a lot, actually, about TV and children. It's an IELTS favorite. I think it's because it's a very general sort of subject, isn't it? Everyone in every country, people probably have this issue. So when you let your children watch too much television, it might seriously damage their communicative skills. Arguable, but let's be bold, shall we? Okay, so let's put this together. When too much TV or television, because it's formal, these are a lot of words here. Their communicative skills. I'm going to change it to social skills, actually. Yeah. Change my mind. Okay. So, is it true? It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter if it's true or not in the IELTS. Again, I'm saying that your opinion is irrelevant. It's very much relevant, but it's they're looking at the way that you communicate more so than what you're saying. And this would show that you can communicate very well, actually. When you let your children watch too much TV, it may seriously damage their social skills. Hopefully not. I think children have a hard time with things like the internet and phones and everything. It's quite complex being a young'un now. But if we look at what we've done here, we're saying that this is our opinion because we're using may. We're not saying it absolutely is going to. We're saying that it's a possibility. And serious damage is, well, that's never a good thing, is it, to be honest with you? If you seriously damage something, you seriously damage your health or communication skills, it's not a good thing. So it's being emphatic, but also by using the modal verb, we're kind of saying, but other opinions are of value as well, which is good. Okay, so just what you need to do basically is just get into the habit of thinking, how can I construct? How can I build sentences? What are these complex sentences that everyone keeps talking about? Well, they're ones, as I said before, they're ones like this, where we're taking an idea, we are kind of taking a step back from the idea because we're saying other ideas are possible. We're adding emphasis by using adverbs, and then we're ending it grammatically correctly with a final part to the sentence here. It's all about putting the pieces together to make a really slick piece of writing. Okay. So do you remember at the start of this hour, which wasn't that long ago, we looked at this sentence here. Clearly, these distractions will reduce how much work you produce. Okay. So let's have a look again at this sentence, but it's shown in what we call a wider context. It's actually shown in its more full written context. It's going to highlight this for you. So these are some very good examples of sentences that an examiner would be delighted to see in an exam. For instance, it is extremely tempting to turn on the television, go and relax in the garden, or make a phone call. Clearly, these distractions will dramatically reduce how much work you produce. Okay. So, the one that we've chosen here is dramatically. It makes the sentence a lot better, doesn't it? These distractions will really reduce how much work you produce. It's of more interest, it's better to read, it's better linguistically. It'll make an examiner very happy. Happy examiners mean happy grades. Now, what we're also going to look at is this here. Clearly. I mentioned it before. I said I liked it. Didn't really expand as to why I liked it. I just said I like clearly, and everyone said great. So let's have a look at this little part here. Focus on the adverb in bold, clearly. What does it tell you about the writer's opinion? Well, let's think about this first of all, shall we? It means it's obvious. It means to say, well, clearly it is. It's almost saying we don't even need to add an explanation. It's like, well, obviously they're going to reduce how much work you'll produce. It's just silly to think otherwise. So clearly means absolutely this is what's going to happen. Clearly these distractions will dramatically reduce how much work you produce. Okay, so when we want to make something obvious, we use clearly. Now, next point. Where is it in the sentence? Clearly is at the start, isn't it? After a full stop, clearly, comma. This is kind of like signposting. It's directing the reader. Even if we don't have any words from clearly onwards, even if we don't read ahead, we know that the writer is going to tell us something that they believe is obvious. And this is good because it's very good to prepare your audience, to prepare your person that's reading, saying, look, what's coming next is something I think is absolutely true. Okay? So, clearly these distractions will dramatically reduce how much work you produce. at the start we're saying, look, it's obvious. This is what we call a comment adverb. And they are useful. And there's an explanation here, which is a very good one. Writers use these to show their opinion and to show the reader that there is a link between one sentence and the next. Okay, so they're doing two jobs, really, aren't they? We're talking about what we believe, and we're showing the reader there's a link between one sentence and the next. And this next point is completely true. To get really good grades, this is what they're going to be looking for. They're looking how well you control your language and how effectively you connect your sentences together. Now, you're marked on your coherence, so how well everything links together. And adverbs like these really, really help improve that mark. Okay. All right. So here are 6. Boop. We have got 6 comment adverbs here. So 6 ways where these two jobs are done. Stating the opinion and linking one sentence to the next. So let's have a look at these before we look at the reasons for using them. Personally, obviously, similarly, unfortunately, alternatively, and understandably. Okay. I'm sure you've seen these words before. I mean, hopefully you've been using them before, which is great. If you haven't, then hopefully after today you'll start using them. Okay. So we now need to think about the reason for using them as well. So what do they indicate to the reader? Okay. Personally is good because we want to avoid using I too much in the exam. It's not a good idea to use I all the time in the essay because, first of all, it's not really fitting with the way that we write academically in English, and that's what we want to see in the IELTS writing. But also, you want to show the examiner that you're acknowledging other people's opinions too. So you're not just talking about what you believe, you're talking much more broadly than that. You're talking about the other beliefs of people. But personally is quite good because at the same time as you're not being able to use I and you've got to acknowledge the ideas and opinions of others, you know, it is a requirement for you to show your opinion. So let's have a think here. What matches? Personally, so if you're watching this not live, which is great, fantastic, this would be a good point to just pause and to have a go at matching the 6 comment adverbs that are in the orange cloud. If you then look at the explanations on the right, and you can match the 2 together. Okay, so if you want to do that now, just pause, because what I'm going to do now is actually go through and run through the explanations here. Okay, so personally, I'm introducing my opinion about the subject. So it's great because we're saying, look, I'm talking about me here. Other people might have different ideas, and that's fine. But personally, I want to talk about my beliefs. Obviously, very similar to clearly. So what do we match? Which explanation do we match with obviously? Yeah. I think this is generally clear. And I think it's so clear that it's accepted by people. So we use obviously when it's, yeah, I think everybody knows this. Okay, so we've got 2 down. Let's have a look at number 3. It's a nice word, this. Similarly. Similarly. So what am I introducing here? Is it something which is going to be the same or different? Similarly. Yeah. I'm introducing an idea like the one in the previous sentence. So I'm not really changing the content of what I'm saying. I'm just adding to it. I'm building on my previous thought. Okay, so similarly. But it's good to let the examiner know that you are doing that. You know, communication is the most important thing here, isn't it? So yeah, we've got to tell the examiner that we know we're talking about something in a similar way. Unfortunately, well, this one's quite straightforward. We're introducing a negative idea. You know, if you wanted to, you could introduce a positive idea. You could say, fortunately, that's fine as well. Just remove the prefix un. But in this situation here, we're introducing a negative idea or example. Okay. Next one. This is a really useful word, actually. Alternatively. It's F. I'm introducing an idea or example which is different to the one in the previous sentence. Now, linking words, comment adverbs, where you're contrasting ideas, there's nothing wrong with using however, but just be a bit more ambitious with your language use. There's nothing wrong with using it at all. But you probably will use it at some point in the essay, so have another word that you can use with a similar purpose. You know, if you're contrasting ideas, just use alternatively as well. Last one. Understandably. I think this idea makes sense. Understandably, people don't want to be outside so much in the winter. So we're saying, well, of course they don't. It's not, well, actually, it's quite sunny in England today. But we're saying we get it. You know, we know that there's a reason for it. It's understandable. So understandably means I think this idea makes sense. Okay. So it's all about adding, it sounds like a really strange thing to say, but it's all about adding shape and dimension to what you're saying. You know, I talk about weight and power, but it's, to be honest, it's just about making yourself a bit more clear. You know, it's about making your view clearer, and you know, and it's really important that you are able to do that. You know, you're able to express yourself well, and as we said before, that you can use lots of different language in a controlled and accurate way. So it's good. All right, so I just want to go through one other thing with you in the last sort of 15 minutes here. Okay. I think it's, oh. Hi. Hello. Sorry, that was a bit exciting. That was a bit of a technical jump boop there. Sorry, I'm back with you now. Sorry about that. No idea what happened, but back with you now. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do really briefly, one moment, is just have a look at something else with modal verbs. Sorry. Okay, I'll make it, yes, Adverb, I will make it bigger. Yeah, sure, no problem. Woo. Okay. All right. Okay, let's make it nice and big. Now, it's hard with the essay, isn't it? Because you're doing something quite strange. You're kind of trying to give your opinion. You're trying to be general and not general. It's all, there's a lot going on, basically. But you need to make sure that you're not making statements which are just too general. Okay. It's important in academic writing as well. And again, this is to do with modal verbs, which is why I've actually sort of joined this onto the end of the information about adverbs, because it is really important that you don't just say things which seem like they're 100% true. You've got to sort of speculate a bit, okay? So this can make you more rounded as a person. Let's just have a think about the use of this word here. Not saying it will 100%, we're just saying it might do. Same as what now. I really apologize for my writing with my mouse. It's really bad, but we will cope. Actually, that's not too bad. Secondly, moving abroad may lead to a better quality of life. It's speculating again, and also, like I said before, it's really, really good for your speaking, especially in part 3 of your speaking as well. Might do, may do. Another one we can add here, which improve promotion prospects on your return. I would use could. Is it for definite that your promotion prospects on your return would? No, of course it's not. Nothing's 100%, but it might be. You know, if we're talking about statistics, it's definitely a possibility, isn't it? So, you know, could improve promotion prospects on your return. It's something that definitely might happen. Also, as well, why don't we use can here? Well, we can, but we need to show range. We need to show variety. We need to show that you know more than one modal verb. You know, the fact you're using a modal verb is brilliant, fantastic. That will, you know, that will impress an examiner. But we need to show flexibility. We need to show that, you know, yeah, I can use a modal verb and I can use more than one modal verb as well. Now, I'm going to ask you to put your grammar hats on here. Can make, may lead, could improve. Infinitive, infinitive, and infinitive. But 1 second, we haven't got an infinitive here, have we? Nope. Got an S. Can't use a modal verb here because that breaks the rule of grammar. So, I'm going to use something different. I'm going to use this word here. I'm trying to write it for you. Bear with me. S-O-M-E-T. I-M-E-S. My handwriting is not like this in real life, by the way. This sometimes leads to homesickness. Not all the time, not 100%, not with every person, but it's a possibility sometimes. Another issue is that it's difficult to start a new life from scratch. Now, verb, verb, verb. Not a verb. Okay. What type of word is this? Very good. Difficult is an adjective, isn't it? How are we going to make a sentence here? Well, another issue is that it's difficult to start a new life from scratch. I would use personally. We've used can, may, could. I'm going to go wild. It looks like a 4-year-old is writing this. Might be. Still got to use a verb, infinitive, because might is a modal verb, yeah? Might be. Is it definitely? No, I don't know. Might not be, might be, don't know. We don't know. Possible. This process, English. This process takes time and especially challenging. Well, I'm going to repeat myself here because we've shown it's okay sometimes to repeat yourself as long as you've shown. We've used 4 modal verbs here. I'm going to use can again because we've used lots of different ones as well. This process takes time and can be especially challenging if. Yeah, good. All right, so We're still not breaking that grammar rule, are we? We've still got the infinitive and we've got modal verb, infinitive, modal verb, infinitive, modal verb. It's just that we've added a modal verb here. And we've added the infinitive here. It's good. All right, let's just have a last think for the last 5 minutes here about making these sounds less general. Let's start with number 1. It is difficult to find a new job when you're in a foreign country. Well, that's quite a bold statement. It's not always true. People might find it very easy. I would probably use, let's go for some flexibility. Can be. It can be difficult to find a job when you're in a foreign country. It's a small change, but it makes a big difference to the content, doesn't it? Children copy the behavior of their parents. Well, not 100%, not all the time. Some do, some don't. I'm going to use may. Put it here. Children may copy the behavior of their parents. Might do, might not. Working from home makes it difficult to build good relationships with your colleagues. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So, before, well, first of all, we've got makes. Okay, so I'm going to use sometimes. Working from home sometimes makes it difficult to build good relationships with your colleagues. And the sometimes goes here. Learning a language gets harder with age. Might be true, but not all the time. I've taught students who are like 60 or 70. They're really good. So learning a language could. Now, remember, take away that S. Learning a language could get harder with age. Maybe yes, maybe no. And the last one, number 5. It's a nice, a long sentence to finish up with here. Young people turn to crime because of the lack of employment opportunities in their area. It's probably true. Not all people do. Just because an area has big unemployment doesn't mean that all the young people that live there are criminals. I'm going to choose this one here. Might. Now, we don't have to use might be because turn is the verb, infinitive. So we can use might, but we don't need to use turn. Great stuff. Okay, good. So let's leave that there for today. I just want to really, just want to really repeat as well that, it is all about flexibility of language. It's showing that just showing everything you know. This is not difficult language, but it's language that people sort of forget to use in exams, but don't. Because using small words like this, absolutely promised you, will really have a big, positive, emphatic effect on an examiner. And that's what we want. Thank you for your time. See you the next time. Bye-bye.